I remember the exact moment she said it. We were sitting across from each other at the small kitchen table, the same place where we had eaten countless quiet dinners and shared lazy Sunday mornings. Her voice was calm, almost careful, like she had practiced the words in her head before letting them out. She said she loved me, but she felt curious about life, about other people, and she wanted to know if I would be okay with her seeing others. She looked at me as if she was asking permission to borrow my car, not to change the shape of our relationship. I didn't know what to say at first. My chest felt tight, but I didn't want to seem weak, controlling, or insecure. I had always prided myself on being understanding, modern, and open-minded. So when she asked if I was okay with it, I forced a small smile and said, "Sure, I'll try." The moment the words left my mouth, I felt something inside me crack, but I ignored it. At first, nothing really changed. We still lived together, still shared meals, still laughed at the same dumb jokes. She was extra affectionate, almost relieved, as if my answer had lifted a heavy weight from her shoulders. She thanked me for being so mature, so supportive. I told myself that love meant compromise, and this was just another test of how strong we were. Then the small changes started. She began dressing up more often, even on days when she wasn't going anywhere special with me. Her phone was always face down. She would smile at messages and quickly tuck the device into her pocket. When I asked casual questions about her day, her answers became vague, trimmed of details she used to share freely. The first night she went out with someone else, she told me she'd be late. I nodded and said okay, then spent the evening pretending to watch TV while checking the clock every 10 minutes. Each passing hour felt heavier than the last. I imagined her laughing, touching someone else's arm, telling stories that used to belong only to us. When she finally came home, she kissed my cheek and said thank you again for being understanding. I smiled back, even though my stomach was in knots. I thought the feeling would get easier with time. Everyone said jealousy fades if you face it honestly. But instead of fading, it grew quieter and deeper, like a constant hum in the background of my life. I stopped bringing up how I felt because every time I tried, she reminded me that I had agreed. She wasn't doing anything wrong. She was being honest. I was the one who said I'd try. What I didn't realize was how much I was shrinking to make room for her freedom. I started questioning myself constantly. Was I allowed to feel hurt? Was I being unfair if I missed her? I told myself that real love meant letting go, even when it hurt. So I swallowed my feelings and acted supportive, while slowly losing the version of myself that felt secure and valued. One evening, she came home glowing. She talked about someone she had met, how easy the conversation was, how exciting it felt to connect with someone new. She stopped mid-sentence when she noticed my silence. She asked if I was okay, and I automatically said yes. The truth was, I felt invisible, like a safe place she returned to after living her real life somewhere else. I began to notice how our time together felt different. When we were alone, she seemed distracted, as if part of her mind was always elsewhere. Our conversations lacked depth. Our laughter felt forced. I realized I was no longer her partner in the way I once was. I was a constant, a backup, something stable she didn't have to worry about losing. One night, lying awake next to her, I finally admitted something to myself that I had been avoiding. I wasn't okay. I hadn't been okay from the start. I had said yes because I was afraid that saying no would mean losing her. But in trying to keep her, I was slowly losing myself. The next day, I asked her if we could talk. She looked nervous, maybe sensing that something had shifted. I told her the truth, calmly and honestly. I said I had tried, like I promised. I had pushed down my discomfort, my jealousy, my sadness. But pretending I was okay didn't make it true. It just made me lonely, even while sharing a home with someone I loved. She listened quietly, then said she appreciated my honesty. But she still felt the same. She didn't want to stop seeing other people. She said this was something she needed to explore, something important to her growth. And in that moment, everything became painfully clear. I finally understood that love shouldn't require me to constantly betray my own feelings. Compromise is part of any relationship, but so is mutual care. I had been trying to adapt to a situation that fundamentally hurt me, hoping it would somehow transform into something bearable. It never did. So I told her I couldn't continue like this. I said it wasn't an ultimatum and it wasn't anger. It was simply honesty. I needed a relationship where I felt chosen, not tolerated, where my presence mattered as much as my understanding. She cried, and I did too. We hugged for a long time, holding onto the familiarity even as we both knew it was ending. There was no dramatic fight, no villain in the story, just two people who wanted different things and tried to force them into the same space. Packing my things a few days later felt surreal. The apartment echoed without my voice. As I closed the door behind me, I felt a strange mix of grief and relief. I was heartbroken, but I was also free from the constant ache of pretending. Looking back, I don't regret trying. I learned something important about myself. I learned that being okay with something doesn't mean saying yes when your heart is screaming no. It means respecting your own boundaries as much as you respect someone else's desires.